Hello folks, I'm your host Paul Goodwin and welcome to Ghost Ball. Today we're going to talk about Will the Thrill Clark. Anybody out there not think that Willie McCovey should be in the Hall of Fame? Willie McCovey is one of the easiest Hall of Famers there is out there. So if we're going to talk about Will Clark, and if he comes close to Willie McCovey, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Should the Thrill be in? Absolutely. Of all the videos I'm going to do, I cannot imagine being more certain about another video. And one of the things I like to do, especially with offensive ball players, is look at runs created per plate appearance. When we're talking about McCovey and Clark, those are offensive ball players. Both of them played in San Francisco, Candlestick Park, and both of them were first basemen for the majority of their careers. Runs plus RBIs minus the home runs, because home runs count as a run and an RBI. Then divide that by plate appearances. Then I multiply by 700 to make it look like a regular season. Here are the numbers: Clark versus Willie McCovey. Well, Clark, when we take his numbers, this is what we get: 178. Then we take great Hall of Famer Willie McCovey, and lo and behold, Will the Thrill Clark, it's not even close, beats Willie McCovey in runs created per plate appearance over his career. Now, there are some of you out there that say, well, he had 521 or so home runs. That's not fair. I don't know if it's fair or not, but let's, once again, do it your way. And Clark is still going to come pretty close. We add the home runs back on. And for Clark, we come out with 202. It's pretty close to McCovey, who comes out with 201. Clark beats him again all time. If you had to bet your life or your life savings on who would produce a run, Willie McCovey, the bona fide, easy peasy Hall of Famer, or Will the Thrill Clark, you'd have to put your money on Will Clark. 202 to 201. And that's with McCovey hitting 521 home runs that count twice as a run. So let's look at the horse race. Time twisted. Okay, we'll just show you the whole race here in the beginning and just let you know Clark's going to end up winning 204 to Willie Stargell's 202 and McCovey's 200. And down here's the legend. Stargell is in gray, McCovey is in orange, and Will Clark is in blue. And of course, the numbers here, these are the points they get for home runs. Stargell leads off for 73, and this is the totalizer here. And the blue numbers are who led in the category, and it's gray if it's tied. But of course, McCovey and Stargell start out with a lot more because they were power hitters. Over here are the numbers. So Clark, lifetime 303, 23 home runs and 590 at-bats, and had an OPS of 880. And then these numbers here are for the normal season, where we put everyone in the same season, facing the same pitcher in the same stadium over and over again for their whole career, and that's the balanced field. This is the difference. So this means 313 minus 303 equals 10. If we look here, these Ghost Ball numbers, Clark will be underrated throughout time because some people use steroids, which means when you compare him against his peers, he doesn't perform as well as he would have. Let's say he batted 300 and the league batted 250. If people hadn't used steroids, the league may have batted only 245. So Clark would have been 55 points ahead of the average instead of 50 points ahead of the average. So we'll never know how good Will Clark really was. But we know he would have been better than his statistics show. What I want to point out is, and this is the kind of stuff you don't get when you just look at OPS and batting average, etc., etc. Double plays, look at that. Clark only gets a -3, and then sacrifice flies. Clark gets a 5, and then 3 and 3. So if we add these up, you get, in other words, Clark is 4 points ahead of McCovey, and he's 3 points ahead of Stargell. And does that make a difference? Well, yeah, because everything else is equal. Everything else is equal once you get here to the totalizer. Everything else except for this part here is equal between the players. Also, when you get over here in offensively, obviously, McCovey and Stargell are better. But when you get over here in the defensive end, look at Clark. It does better on fielding percentage. And then range, he does a lot better than Stargell and a little bit better than McCovey. I want you to remember this double play and sacrifice fly section here for later. Okay, sacrifice flies in Major League Baseball were not kept until 1954. And then for double plays, 1932 in the National League, 1939 in the American League. Will Clark, amongst all first basemen, was the 8th toughest first baseman to double up per plate appearance. Now let's look at this graph. These are the top 10 guys ranked in order of right here. Sacrifice flies divided by double plays. The higher is better. This is sacrifice flies for their careers minus double plays, the total. And this is divided by it. Over here, just for grins, I put batting average in. H5 home runs per 590 at bats. Highest to lowest, more sacrifice flies per double play. And you see all the names here. And then number 1 is, of course, Will Clark. And what I find interesting here is he has the only positive number here. Will Clark is the only first baseman in Major League Baseball history to have more sacrifice flies than grounded into double plays. And if you look at the second and third best numbers, going by these numbers, yeah, these guys are close, -5, -7. Okay, not a big deal, I guess. But they hit half the home runs that Clark hit. So they're first baseman, but they're not giving you the power that you're expecting out of a first baseman. The closest guy, really, here at number 4, is 43 off the pace. Brandon Belt is still playing. He's 13 under. Look at all these big numbers, and these are the top 10 guys in the history of the game, and Clark is the only one, 101 to 100, who has more sacrifice flies than grounded in the double plays. Here's some other notes. Looking at this graph, this is how many times he's finished in the top 5 in MVP voting. Clark 4 times, and he never won. McCovey 2 times, and he won an MVP. Stargell 4 times, and he won an MVP. Here we have Gold Gloves. Clark won. McCovey and Stargell never won a Gold Glove. Now, Will Clark has the 30th highest batting average for first baseman all time. Now, that also includes guys that played in, the 1800s, early 1900s, when batting averages could have been off the charts somewhere. But since World War II, the only guys, Clark is number 9, the only guys ahead of him are Stan Musial, Hall of Famer, Rod Carew, Hall of Famer, Todd Helton, possible Hall of Famer, and he played at Coors Field, Miguel Cabrera, easy Hall of Famer when he retires, Don Mattingly may make the Hall someday, Votto probably will make the Hall someday, Joe Mauer and Hal Morris are also ahead of him, but they only hit half the home runs that Will Clark hit. So of the 8 people ahead of him, 6 of them might make the Hall of Fame, and probably at least 5 of the 6 are going to make the Hall of Fame. Now, of those guys ahead of him, only 4 have a higher OPS. Now, only 3 players finished in the top 15% in batting average and in the top 15% in OPS and also won a Gold Glove. Clark won 1 Gold Glove, Votto won 1, and Helton won 3. If you're wondering how Will Clark did against Todd Helton, since his name keeps coming up, Clark, here's his numbers here. He actually batted .303 with an .880 OPS. Helton, .316 with a .953, so Helton's ahead on actual numbers. But in Time Twister Ghost Ball numbers, look what happens. Clark jumps to .313 and .904, and Helton falls to .297 and .865. Nothing to shake a stick at, but Will Clark was a better hitter than Todd Helton. So I've done my best to convince you that Will Clark should be in the Hall of Fame. But here's my last-ditch effort, if you're not convinced yet. If someone came along today and they had the numbers that Sammy Sosa had, and it was clear to everyone that they didn't use steroids or anything like that, batted .273, hit 609 home runs, should they be in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Sosa, look at that. 4 years in a row, 66 home runs, 63, 50, and then 64. If that's not Hall of Fame, I don't know what is. But let's take a look at the OPS. Whoa! Will Clark, 880 to 878. Do you know how hard it is to have an 880 OPS? I mean, slamming Sammy Sosa couldn't do it. And Clark leads him, and he's not in the Hall. And if Sosa hadn't used steroids, he would easily be a Hall of Famer. Yet Clark sits on the sidelines with his Gold Glove with nothing. Come on. All right, that's all I can do. He's Will Clark, 10th best first baseman all time by my ranking. He's on the 7th team, and he's the 32nd best player in the history of Major League Baseball. The 32nd best player in the history of Major League Baseball, and he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. May not even get, he's going there. I'm telling you, Will Clark someday, when they finally crunch the numbers correctly, they're going to go, what have we been missing? This guy is not only, he's not barely in the Hall of Fame, he is easily in the Hall of Fame. Will Clark, the thrill is not gone, the thrill is coming, and he's coming to the Hall of Fame near you.